Fans have speculated for months about the characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe that would show up in Avengers Endgame. Sure, the MCU saw half of its characters snapped away by Thanos in Avengers 3, yet fans had every faith that the remaining heroes would figure out a way to quickly resurrect them. So most fans knew that Endgame was shaping up to be one of the biggest superhero team-up movies of all time. What we didn't know was that it was going to be a walk down memory lane too. Endgame revisited past places and times in the franchise and spent time with characters we never thought we'd see again. This led to quite a few surprise cameos. Plus, there were several appearances by familiar faces that we never expected to encounter in an MCU movie. In this video, we're taking a look at the most surprising cameos from Endgame in more or less the order that they appeared. It should come as no surprise that there are major spoilers ahead, so step away if you want to avoid them. Our first cameo isn't a character that we've seen before, and we probably won't see him ever again. However, if you thought there was something oddly familiar about the storage facility guard early in the film, now there's a reason. That's Ken Jeong, the actor who's known for his role as Mr. Cho in the Hangover movies. His only job here is to don a fabulous wig and release Ant-Man following his return from the quantum realm. Yet for the film's directors, Anthony and Joe Russo, Jeong's inclusion is personal. Before they became responsible for some of the MCU's biggest hits, the Russos directed over 20 episodes of the sitcom Community. Jeong played Senor Chang on the series, so Jeong's appearance is a nod to the director's past work. Not only do the cameos in Endgame acknowledge its director's television work, it features one of the Russos on screen. Endgame features the MCU's first openly gay character, and Joe Russo decided that he wanted to portray him. The Nameless Man appears as a member of a support group run by Captain America towards the beginning of the film. It's been 5 years since Thanos snapped away half the population, and he just went on his first date. It went well, despite the fact that both men ended up crying during dinner. Russo actually has a history of making brief cameos in the MCU movies that he co-directs with his brother. In the Russo's first foray into the MCU, Captain America the Winter Soldier, he played a doctor for the Avengers. And in Captain America 3, he plays a psychiatrist who meets his end at the hands of Helmut Zemo. His role in Endgame is his most significant yet. The first character callback we get in Endgame comes in the form of the comical rock band Korg. We meet the gentle-hearted Korg during Thor Ragnarok. He's played by that movie's director Taika Waititi. Korg was last seen on the Asgardian spaceship escaping the destruction of Thor's homeworld. Between Thanos' deadly invasion of the ship in the opening of Avengers 3 and the decimation, we expected the worst for him. It turns out that we didn't have to worry. Korg survived both disasters. Then he spent the next 5 years living in New Asgard on Earth playing video games and drinking beer with Thor. He may be a bit of an enabler, but at least he's entertaining company. A lot of the action in the middle of Endgame centers on the heroes time traveling to the past to retrieve the 6 Infinity Stones. Iron Man, Captain America, Professor Hulk, and Ant-Man return to the Battle of New York from 2012's The Avengers. Their goal is to find 3 of the stones. Along the way, they encounter all sorts of characters who played important roles in past MCU movies. One of the most intriguing is Tilda Swinton's The Ancient One from Doctor Strange. The Ancient One met her demise during that film, leaving room for Strange to become the new Sorcerer Supreme. In 2012 though, Strange was still an arrogant surgeon with no need for magic. As the current Sorcerer Supreme, the Ancient One had the Time Stone in her possession, and she wasn't so keen on letting Hulk borrow it. It's unlikely that we'll ever see this character again, but it was fun to see her serenely explain the hidden realities of the universe one last time. While Hulk is busy negotiating with the Ancient One, Captain America is attempting to retrieve the Mind Stone at Stark Tower. The thing is, S.H.I.E.L.D. agents Jasper Sitwell and Brock Rumlow have already come to pick it up. Back then, no one knew that the pair were actually operatives for Hydra, or that Rumlow would become the terrorist called Crossbones. The two perished following the revelation of their affiliation, but in 2012, no one suspected a thing. Yet Captain America from the future is fully aware of Sitwell and Rumlow's true loyalties, and he uses that knowledge to his advantage. Cap takes an elevator out of the building with them. At first, it looks like the situation is going to devolve into a fight like the memorable elevator brawl from Winter Soldier. However, Cap finds an easier way to get what he wants, with a simple whisper of "Hail Hydra." To Sitwell, the Mind Stone is his, and we're left astonished at how trusting these two longtime double agents actually are. While Captain America works on retrieving the Mind Stone, Iron Man and Ant-Man go after the Space Stone. The plan is to get it from Tony Stark's younger self. What fans didn't anticipate was Stark's 2012 encounter with Alexander Pierce, Robert Redford's character from The Winter Soldier. Like Sitwell and Rumlow, Pierce is a Hydra agent who's infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. He is extremely high up in the organization, so he uses his clout to attempt to claim the Tesseract from Tony. It was an unexpected treat to see this villain again, since he didn't make it out of the Winter Soldier alive. Not to mention, his alter ego is screen legend Robert Redford, so we didn't expect to see him pop up in the MCU again. But there he was, as authoritative as ever, demanding the stone from Loki and unwilling to take no for an answer. Jane Foster was Thor's main squeeze during Thor and Thor: The Dark World. Since then, she disappeared from the MCU with barely an explanation. Reportedly, Natalie Portman, who plays Foster, had a falling out with Marvel over her desire to have Patty Jenkins direct The Dark World. So outside of a mention here and there, fans never expected to see Thor's earthly love interest again. It turns out that the character is seen from afar in Endgame when Thor travels with Rocket back to Asgard circa 2013 during The Dark World. Their goal is to extract the Aether Foster has absorbed, which doubles as the Reality Stone. Thor becomes intimidated upon seeing her, so outside of a few lines and brief shots, we see very little of her. In fact, it looks like her whole appearance could be the result of some film magic that didn't actually require Portman's presence. Still, fans were excited to see Portman at the Endgame premiere. Even if Marvel only used old footage for her cameo, it seems like Portman was happy to be included in the movie. During Thor's brief return to the Asgard of the past, he spends a substantial amount of time with his mother, Frigga. Frigga lost her life during the Dark World and was deeply mourned by Thor, Loki, and Odin. So when a worse for wear Thor glimpses his beloved mother in Endgame, he can't help but become emotional. While he attempts to hide from her, Frigga finds Thor and quickly deduces that he isn't the Thor that she knows. Nonetheless, she's happy to discuss his struggles and counsel him on how to move forward. It's just what the depressed and traumatized Thor needs. His mother's wise words gave Thor the strength to live up to his potential as a hero. And Renee Russo's pitch-perfect performance as Frigga made her brief appearance deeply moving. Things go south when Iron Man and Ant-Man go to retrieve the Space Stone in 2012. So Iron Man does some quick thinking and comes up with another time when they can locate the stone. New Jersey, 1970. He and Cap make the trip, leaving behind a very confused Ant-Man. On the army base where they go to recover the stone, several unexpected characters pop up. The first character we see isn't a blast from the MCU movie's past. It's another character who worked with the directors Joe and Anthony Russo on Community, Yvette Nicole Brown, who played the deeply religious Shirley on the sitcom, rides in an elevator with Cap and Tony. She can't help but notice their strange behavior and Tony's weird facial hair, so a bit later we hear her reporting their questionable presence to security. Ever since she and Steve Rogers found each other in Captain America: The First Avenger, Peggy Carter has been a strong presence in the MCU. Peggy passes away soon afterwards and Cap attends her funeral in Captain America 3. Despite the sad circumstances of their romance, Steve never stopped holding a torch for Peggy. So when he ducks into an office in 1970 to escape notice and runs into a photo of his younger self, it's clear whose office it is. He wistfully watches a hard-at-work Peggy come into the adjoining room, but departs instead of letting himself speak to her. He has a mission, and he can't let himself compromise it by chatting up the love of his life. Still, we get to see Peggy again at the very end of the film, dancing with Steve after he travels back in time to be with her. Haley Atwell was always indelible as Peggy, but in Endgame, she never has to say a word. Her presence in the film is meaningful enough. Howard Stark has made several appearances in the MCU, but his biggest claim to fame, as far as fans are concerned, is being Tony's dad. Tony had a tumultuous relationship with his father and the legacy that he left behind when he and Tony's mother perished. So when Tony encounters his father in 1970, he's stunned, just like the audience who never expected to see him again. The two Starks discuss fatherhood, and Tony admits he knows his father did the best that he could. It's a poignant conversation that offers Tony some closure after years of resentment. The MCU series Agent Carter introduced the character of Edwin Jarvis as Howard Stark's longtime butler. Throughout the show, he was an ally to Peggy on her missions. However, he never appeared in the MCU movies until now. That's what makes this cameo so special. For the first time, a Marvel film included a character who'd only been in a Marvel TV show. Jarvis only appears briefly in Endgame, picking Howard up in his limo, yet it's a pleasant surprise to see him there. Jarvis was always a loyal and endearing character in the dearly departed Agent Carter. It's good to see him again, if only for a few seconds. These next two characters are seen only briefly and never heard during Tony's funeral. The event draws pretty much all of the remaining characters in the MCU. The attendees are a virtual who's who of the characters in the franchise, including Aunt May, Happy Hogan, and Nick Fury. Still, we were surprised to see Thaddeus Ross standing in the middle of the large gathering. Ross' most noteworthy turn in the MCU was in The Incredible Hulk. The movie even Marvel seems to want to forget. Nonetheless, William Hurt already made surprise cameos as Ross in Captain America 3 and Avengers 3. Despite those appearances, his presence in Endgame, now that was unexpected. And that also made it much more significant. Even more surprising than Ross' attendance at Tony's funeral was that of Harley Keener, a deep cut from the MCU that left some fans confused. He appears standing by himself amongst the guests. His prominent placement makes him look important. However, the last time we saw the character was in Iron Man 3 when he was a young boy. Harley hung out with Tony after he crash-landed in Harley's Tennessee hometown. It's been several years since then though, so Harley Keener and the actor who plays him, Ty Simpkins, have grown up into this lanky teen. In a movie that's so concerned with the past and the future, it's a nice acknowledgement of one of Tony's previous adventures. Let's wrap up with the most surprising cameo in all of Endgame. Based on our list, it's clear the movie held many surprise appearances, but one stands out above the rest. In a blink and you'll miss it moment, Howard the Duck appears in the gathering of heroes before the film's climactic battle. We already knew Howard was a part of the MCU. He made a brief appearance in an end credit scene during the Guardians of the Galaxy. Still, we never expected him to show up as part of the Endgame action. Yet, eagle-eyed viewers have seen him standing behind and to the right of Hope Van Dyne after Doctor Strange portals them in. If you missed him in the first time around, make sure to look out for Howard on your next rewatch. And that wraps up our rundown of the most surprising cameos in Endgame. Which of these brief appearances were you most surprised to see? Were there any other unexpected cameos that we missed? Let us know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to The Binger for more great content. Thanks for watching.